Okay, good evening, Bruchim Habayim Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. Tonight's class was sponsored L'Chvod V'Lilui Nishmat Moreinu Rav Shaya ben Rav Moshe Castillo Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha Zchuto Yagen Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Amen V'Amen. So, here it goes. Ashes to purity. So it's kind of a no-brainer in this parasha, right? Para Aduma, ashes, make somebody pure. That's the instant association. But actually I want to talk tonight a little bit about the date, the Hebrew date, because when there's good opportunities, it's good to know about them and to take advantage of them. Tonight in the Hebrew calendar is Yud Aleph Tammuz, meaning tonight, post-sunset until tomorrow, candlelighting. Yud Aleph Tammuz sounds like another day in the calendar. A week before fast day, Shiva Asar Tammuz. Hopefully this year it'll be a holiday. We'll be in Israel, Mashiach will come before that. But Yud Aleph Tammuz actually has a lot of meaning in Jewish history, and it's a big opportunity to utilize this day for especially prayer. And the timing, and that's why in prior years maybe it wasn't spoken about so much, is even more interesting, and here's how it goes. There was a rabbi, he was nicknamed the Ateret Tzvi. He was a great Kabbalist. They used to call him the Sal Beit HaZohar, the owner of the house of the Zohar. He was considered the legendary Kabbalist after the Ari. The next one that went down as a legend in Kabbalah after the Ari was him, even though he was many, many years later. He was a Hasidic Rebbe, and his name was Rav Tzvi Hirsch Mizidchev. Tzvi Hirsch Mizidchev was, besides for Gaon in Kabbalah, which is what the world knows him as, he was a great Gaon in Nigla. He knew the Torah. It's important for me to stress this, because today there's a trend of Kabbalists, and you could put those quotations many more times. Otherwise known as money exchange people. They get a few good promoters and Gabaim, they play holy, you give them a few $1,000, they give you a blessing, the blessing's a curse, and you lost your money. That's more or less the Kabbalist world today. But there was a time that we still had real Kabbalists that lived according to the criteria of what it takes to be a person who knows Kabbalah. And the first criteria is that you first have to start with the basics. If you don't know Nigla, if you don't know Shas and Poskim, then you don't belong learning Kabbalah. And even if you learn it, you're going to understand it backwards. So, in addition to what he was legendarily known as the great Kabbalist, he was a Gaon in Nigla, just to put things in perspective. Also, he was a Hasidic Rebbe. We associate Hasidic Rebbes more with prayer and with Avodat Hashem, right? We don't associate them for some reason with basic learning like we do in the Sephardic and Lithuanian world, Jewish world. But he didn't start his day, meaning he didn't eat or anything, before he learned 7 pages of Gemara, 7 dapim of Gemara. But not just learn 7 dapim of Gemara, then review them 7 times, meaning 49 dapim of Gemara. That's what he did in order to start his day. If you make a simple calculation, if you learn approximately 7 dapim of Gemara a day, then you finish the entire Bavli every year. You make a Siyum Hashas every year. So he didn't make 1 Siyum Hashas a year, he made 7 Siyum Hashas a year. He was a Gaon Atzum in Nigla. And after that, he also became the master of Kabbalah. And his Hilulah is tonight. Yud Aleph Tammuz, as the day passed away, tonight's his Hilulah. Why is it so interesting to talk about it now, in the climate that we're in now? So now they're talking about round 2 of COVID. I don't know what round they got up to already. The flare-ups and this and that, Hashem should help, it shouldn't affect anybody. So in his lifetime, or at the end of his lifetime, the last year of his life, there was a pandemic that was going on. And he used to get many, many letters from Jews all over the world that would write to him that they're scared and that they lost loved ones and illness and tragedy and other loss as well, and that he should pray for them. And he used to pray a lot for them and whatever he could do to help, that Hashem should take away the pandemic. And it wasn't going away. And on Yud Tammuz, in Tafkuf Tzadik Aleph, when he finished praying Shacharit, he was walking out of the synagogue. It's interesting, he used to pray Shacharit every day at the same exact time, at 9 a.m. Why, I don't know, but that's what he picked, and he was very makpid. He would start exactly 9 a.m. every day. Finished praying his Shacharit, which was a long prayer, and as he finished the prayer, he was walking out of the synagogue to go to the Bet Midrash. Then they used to have synagogues and Batei Midrash separately. And he put his hand on the mezuzah, and he told God, I can no longer tolerate the pain of the Jewish nation suffering, so I'm going to make you a deal. Take me and stop the plague. And the next morning he passed away, and that was the end of the pandemic. Unbelievable thing. And tonight's his Yortzeit. So the man who stopped the man who was able to stop the pandemic with his Mesirut Nefesh, tonight is Yortzeit. So we pray that in the Schut that we'll say a little bit over from him, or about him, he should be a Melitziel Shen Shamayim. If he was able to do it once, then Gdolim Tzadikim B'mitatam Yoter Mi B'chayim, the righteous have more power after they pass than before. So definitely he can do it again now. And he should, this pandemic should be over with already, and not only medically, politically as well. It should be over on all fronts, and people should get their lives back. It would be very helpful for everybody, especially for the young generation that has the greatest impact of this mentally, from this mentally. There was a great rabbi who was known as the Divrei Cheskel, the Shin V'Rov. The Divrei Cheskel, when he spoke about the Ateret Tzvi, the Zidshow, that is Yortzeit tonight, he would say an interesting thing. He said that the night of the Yortzeit of the Ateret Tzvi has the same power in Shamayim as the night of Lag BaOmer. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the one who gave us the Zohar, who taught us, who wrote the Zohar for us, or through him the Zohar was written for us. And he was the master of Kabbalah, at least as in the Hasidic world, but also in the past few hundred years after the Ari, he was known as the next big person that gave over Kabbalah. So he was what brought Kabbalah closer to our generation, and as a result, they would consider this a day of Lag BaOmer. To the point, this was a custom in the Jewish nation for years, that many of those that are the avid goers to Miron on Lag BaOmer, like myself, also go Yud Aleph Tammuz to Lag BaOmer, to Miron again. Because to go to his grave is more complicated. That was a simpler transaction, and they felt that there was, the Shin V'Rov said that there's a spiritual link between the 2 days. Lo aleinu v'lo alechem, it pains me to say, but Lag BaOmer we weren't zochet to be in Israel, and now also Israel's still closed. We weren't zochet to be Yud Aleph Tammuz either. Hashem shall help soon. We should be able to go again already, happy and easy. That's why I say, hopefully next week Shiva Sabat Tammuz will be Yom Tov, and then we'll be able to go to Israel. And at that point, it won't be Hilulot. It'll be Tchiyat HaMetim. It'll be even better. But I want to add on that the Minchat Elazar, that was the Munkach Rebbe, Minchat Elazar said a nice remez on this idea of Lag BaOmer and Yud Aleph Tammuz, the connection. There's a pasuk that we all know because we say it in the prayer when we take out the Sefer Torah and other times. Gadlu la'Hashem iti uneromema shemo yachdav. Right? Everybody knows that pasuk. Gadlu la'Hashem iti. Glorify God with me. Uneromema shemo yachdav. And we'll praise Hashem. So the Munkach Rebbe said an unbelievable remez from the pasuk. He said, Gadlu la'Hashem iti. Gadlu la'Hashem. Gadlu, the first letter is Gimel. La Hashem is Lamed Yud Kei Vav Kei. First letter is Lamed. Gadlu La Hashem is Rashi Tevot Gal, Lag BaOmer. Gadlu La Hashem, when? Iti. Iti is Rashi Tevot Yud Aleph. Right, Iti is spelled Aleph Taf Yud. Yud Aleph Taf Tammuz. Gadlu La Hashem, Lag BaOmer, when is also Lag BaOmer? Iti on Yud Aleph Tammuz. You get Lag BaOmer round 2. So obviously today is a very big, tonight and tomorrow is a very big Yom Sugal for Tefillah and for everything else and for good things. And it's extremely beneficial to be aware of that. Bifrat, as I said, for the rabbi who stopped the Magifa, at a time like today, that in one way or the other everybody's plagued. some physically, some mentally, some financially, some all of the above, then other, even more. It's even more necessary to be aware of this and to utilize his zchuyot in Shamayim. So just for those who are going to want to light candles or do something Lilui Nishmat, or give charity Lilui Nishmat. So his name was Rab Tzvi Hirsch ben Rab Yitzchak Isaac. That's for those who are going to later on want to reference it. Rab Tzvi Hirsch ben Rab Yitzchak Isaac, Zecher Tzadik v'Kadosh Levacha, Zchutay Yagen Aleinu, which have a merit that he should be a militzia she'enos from Shamayim. He once said about himself that what made him who he became. He was a huge Torah giant. What made him who he became? Throughout history, many Gdolim and Chachamim spoke about what made them what they became. Some came from a huge Avat Torah that they have, others from the education, their rabbis, this, that, all different things. So the Tzanzer Rebbe once said over that he said that he's gonna explain what made him who he became. And we're going to learn a very quick concept of how people don't need years in order to make a change. And don't need to sit in therapist's office for hours in order to be able to change. People need one honest moment to make one decision, and then you could become a new person. As Chazal say, Yesh koneh olamo b'sha'a achat. There's some people that merit to go from the lowest place to the highest place in the world in an instant. So what was his moment? Because he was a young child, and he didn't like learning. Today that's not popular to say, right? Because we always envision that our Gdolim, they were holy from the second they were born. Many were, but the majority weren't. They had the same Yetzer Hara as we do and the same tests that we do on their levels or on their climate or circumstances. Adarab, 150 years ago in Europe, they had a much bigger Yetzer Hara than today. It was an intellectual Yetzer Hara, it was called Haskala. Today, what's the Yetzer Hara? If you don't want to learn, so you go get high, that's the alternative. So it's not even a balance. There's no temptation. At least then, those who left the yeshiva went to become cultured people in one way or the other, do something productive with their life. Lahavdil. He's a young kid, he doesn't like learning. And then they didn't have schools, established schools like today, but there was what was called a melamed. There was somebody that a few parents would hire, and he would teach a group of boys. So there was a group of boys, he was one of them, and they would sit and learn. And they were learning Chumash. And the other kids were learning, and he used to roam, he would be playing around. He wasn't interested. And he said, his Rebbe, the Melamed, never told him a word. Smart Melamed. A lot of times when you tell people things, you just do damage. Sometimes the unspoken has a much greater effect. But one day, he was making a ruckus, and it was bothering another kid from learning. So the kid turned to him and he told him, Tzviyesh, what are you doing? If you're not going to learn, you're going to end up being one of two things, either an Amaaretz or a Goy. He said he heard those words as a child. It penetrated into his heart. He said, an Amaaretz I definitely don't want to be. And he started learning, and from that day he never stopped learning. So he already merited the Yesh Koneh Olamo B'Sha'ah Achat at such a young age. I've quoted in the past my uncle, Zecher Tzadik Levacha, who was my inspiration for all my knowledge in Torah, accomplished that also by a very similar sentence. I was a young teenager and a reckless one too. And let's just say Torah wasn't my top priority at that point. And he came to me and he told me, I advise you to sit and learn and become a Talmid Chacham. So I thought, he's a holy rabbi, he's going to give me one of these holy speeches, and that was the last thing I was interested in, definitely at that point in my life. And he said, not because of Hashem, and not because of this, and not because that's the right thing to do. He said, oh, that's true, and that's the real reason. But that you're not going to listen to. For a different reason. Because ignoramus is a pandemic, and ignorant people come a dime a dozen. And that you definitely don't want to be. And the only way to avoid being another ignorant person is to study. That's my friendly advice to you. And now that I look back, we're talking about at least 27 years later, it changed my whole way of thinking instantly. No matter what I was up to in life, I always learned Torah, no matter what. Because those words became like my greatest fear ever. And Ama'aretz, you don't want to be. To be an ignorant person, that's for sure. That's a death sentence. At that point, there's nothing. If the head is empty, then what are you alive for? And what are you worth? And that's what years ago, this great tzaddik, as a child, understood. Halavai today, us as adults would understand what he understood then as a child. So he went from being the troublemaker in the group to the one who's learning 7 dapim Gemara 7 times a day, and then being the master of Kabbalah in Am Yisrael. Yesh koneh olamo b'sha'ah achat. Some people in 1 second can turn their life from the dumps to the greatest greatness. It's not some people, any person who has intellectual honesty, in a matter of a second, can transition everything that goes in his head and redo the way he ever thought his whole life. And many people merit that, if they want to. If you don't want, you can give somebody anything in the world, but if he doesn't want it, it's not going to help. But those who want, it's definitely, and this is a great lesson. Now, one of the beautiful things is, it's brought down in the poskim, that in a day that a big rabbi passed away, even if his opinion or his power or whatever it was for him, or was a minority thing, in heaven, in that day, they posek the halacha like him. So that means on a night like tonight, that this is the hilulah of this great rabbi. So in Shamayim, they posek the halacha like him. So he was posek halacha that a person can make a mental transition from one little statement, even at a very young age. So that means tonight is a night that every person, in one decision, can really turn his whole life around. You can go ma'afela le'or gadol, from the deepest darkness to great, great light. And I mean that literally, not as a lip service or, to fluff things up, to make them sound good. That's the schut of a tzaddik. Now, because we like stories, and to the point that I even got a few complaints on WhatsApp in the past few weeks that the shiurim didn't have enough stories. So tonight you'll get stories, fine. If that's what you want, that's what you get. So, I guess that's the new generation. But I have a asmachta for that. Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Lo hamidrash ikar ela ha'maaseh. When the people, of course that's not pshat, but al derech haremez. Lo hamidrash ikar, when people come to the class, they don't want to hear drashot. They want ela ha'maaseh, they want a good story. Everybody wants a story. So here's a story about this tzaddik. Rav Tzvi Hirsch, the Zitcher, he was extremely poor. Lo aleinu v'lo alachem, we should never know, nobody should ever be tested. Mara says, ani chashuv kimed paminan. Somebody who doesn't have money is considered like he's not alive. That means even Hashem took financial stability extremely seriously. And the struggles that come along with poverty are great, and nobody should ever be tested with them. As long as he didn't feel it was bothering him in his avodat Hashem, he accepted it with love. But at one point he felt that it was bothering him to be an Oved Hashem. When he felt it was bothering him to be an Oved Hashem, he said he has to do something about it. So what's he doing about it? So we would say he would go to college, get a degree. Very important, by the way. But he didn't have to do that. Chovat HaLevavot writes in the Akdama that based on a person's understanding of bitachon is how much he has to do or not do. Somebody who has an understanding of bitachon, then Hashem says, you don't have to do anything. Just use your bitachon, everything will be all right. There's no beginning and no end to what a person can accomplish with a drop of faith. And so he was a big Baal bitachon. So he decided that he's going to go to God directly to fix the problem. And he went and he said a prayer. He said the prayer in Yiddish. It's quoted actually word for word. There was a witness who saw the story and wrote the story, but I'm not going to read the Yiddish part. I don't know how much it's going to help. I think the majority of us don't speak Yiddish here. But the rough translation in English, he said, Ribono shel Olam, Master of the world, Ad matai ezbol aniyut kazu? Till when am I going to suffer such poverty? That's it. That was his prayer. Till when am I going to be so poor? And Hashem heard his prayer and answered his prayer. Not a week later, a month later, a year later, like the Gemara says, that there are prayers that are answered right away. There are prayers that are answered later. The Gemara, his prayer was answered instantly. As he said those words, he felt a bulge in his pocket. He stuck his hand into his pocket, and there was a huge diamond there. Not bad, no? God, I need a living, boom, cash, filled up. Reload instantly. Pretty good koach. Hashem should help you. Should be posek in Shamayim tonight for the whole Klal Yisrael, that they should all have Ashirut Bezrat Hashem. Klal Yisrael should be wealthy. Tzorchei Amcha Merubim. Am Yisrael needs it. No. He takes out the diamond. He doesn't know what diamonds are worth. What does he know about stones? So he goes to a diamond dealer that he trusted to ask him if it's worth anything or what to do with it. Guy looks at it, and the guy tells him like this: you should know that this diamond is so expensive that even if the king of the country that he lived in would want to buy it, all the money in the country is not enough to pay for it. He became the top of the world's Forbes list instantly. Not a bad gig, no? Fine. So he can't even sell it, but at that point. So then he went to ask a few other people. He thought maybe that guy's exaggerating. And each diamond dealer that he went to, each one told him even a bigger number than the one before. Then they ended up telling him maybe in Germany there's a certain ruler who he might have the money to buy this. But nobody else could buy it. And he was considering going to sell it so he should have money to solve his poverty problem. And then he started thinking to himself, is that what Hashem really wants from me now or not? Or is this just a test? We know there's a chazal about Rabbi Chanina ben Nosah and his wife, and when they didn't have money, and the golden leg that came down from heaven on Friday. So, meaning there is a dilemma. For some people, Hashem, that's what He wants from them. And for other people, Hashem doesn't. That's not what He wants from them. Hillel was extremely poor, for example. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was extremely wealthy. Meaning Hashem has a path for each person. This one's path is the Nisayon HaAshirut, and this one's path is the Nisayon HaOni. Fine. So, he couldn't decide what's the right thing. So he decided that he's going to do, we've spoken about this in the past, don't ask me what this really means because I have no idea, but I just know what it's brought down in the Sfarim. He's going to do an Aliyat Neshama. It seems like the Tzaddikim had a way that they used to be able to go up to Shamayim to ask questions and come back down. There actually is one Sefer in Kabbalah, it's Kabbalah Ma'asit, it's not really a Sefer that anybody should look at, who does write how to do it, but I was never tempted to try because I'm scared it might be a one-way trip, God forbid. It might be easier to go up than it is to come back down. Might not be worth the risk. Yeah. But the tzaddikim of previous generations, they were able to do such things. So he did an Aliyat Neshama. He went up to Shamayim. When he went up to Shamayim, he asked in Shamayim, do you want me to keep it? Is this for me? Or is this just a test? I can't decide. I don't know what's right. And he was the greatest rabbi of his generation, so he had nobody to ask. It's not like he could go ask somebody. He was the final say. Nobody would answer him. And in Shamayim, they told him, the answer is that we don't give you an answer. You have to decide yourself. Sometimes the biggest answer you could get is not getting an answer. And soon we'll prove it from the Parashat as well. When he came back down, it was a safe trip. I wonder if he had to say Agomel after going up and down like that. It's a long trip, no? Now they're all proud that they got the space. He was able to go a lot further than space, hundreds and hundreds of light years ahead of that. And in an instant, without spending billions of failed dollars first, just like that. Comes back down, and he felt to himself that if in Shamayim they didn't tell him clearly to keep it, that means they were hinting to him not to keep it. It's a big lesson in life, by the way. To tell somebody not to do something is wrong. Because today people are not capable of taking criticism. We're not a generation that's strong enough to deal with criticism. But sometimes you do have to hint to somebody that their way is not so productive. We'll talk politically correct tonight. Let's see how long I last. So you plead the fifth and hope that the other person has the intelligence to understand that silence is the real answer. Like, come on, this is not for you. By the way, there's a great book that ArtScroll put out a couple of weeks ago. You know, once in a while I recommend books because when there's something good out there, I think everybody has to buy it. And if you can't afford to buy it, text me. I'm willing to pay for it for you. About a rabbi that lived in Lakewood. He passed away recently. He was a friend of mine, a good friend of mine. Rabbi Turk, Rav David Trenk, Tzaddik Levacha. And a friend, not as a friend. I wish one day I get the 3% of the dust under his feet. I'd be very happy with myself. It was just, he made everybody feel like a friend. So our few interactions that we had in life made me say that he was a good friend of mine. That's how much. I think the book's called Just Love Them or something like that. Just Love Them. Amazing book. I read it last Shabbat, cover to cover. 20-something bucks. One of my best $20 spent. I really strongly recommend it. And if you have children, or you're an educator, or deal with children, then it's not just I recommend it, it's mandatory. I don't think that after what I read, anybody can honestly be a parent without first reading that. Because it just shows you a glimpse on what it means to be a role model in life, and what a role model is supposed to do, and what's a role model's role in today's day and age, which is completely different than it was just a few years ago. Amazing, amazing book. Really good. And if you'll get what? Just Love Them. About Rav David Schrenk itself. And there's you're right. There's a magnet that became popular, a bumper sticker with his picture, Just Love Them. I don't know if he would have liked that, by the way. He was a very quiet, low profile type of person. But one way or the other, if that message penetrates, Just Love Them, then we'll be in good shape. Because honestly, let's be real. What do our kids need today? And when I say kids, I don't only mean young ones. We're all kids at one age or the other. Just love them. That's all they need. Chazon Ish already wrote this over 60 years ago. Tzarich lekarvem, if you want to bring people closer to you, be'avotot shel ahava. Avotot is the thickest, strongest rope, with ropes of love. You want to have successful families, successful children, successful students, successful surrounding, be'avotot shel ahava, with thick, thick ropes of love. Shower them with love. So in that book, which I hope you'll all buy and read, I read many great stories, but one of them that comes to mind, which kind of fits the theme of what we're talking about, and then we'll go back to what he did with this diamond, is that Abdav didn't like people that smoked. He had an objection to smoking. Happens to be, I think he was an ex-smoker. That might have been part of the reason why, but that was one of the few things that bothered him. Very few things bothered him in life. But he didn't like when the boys smoked, especially in the yeshiva that he had. But at the same time, he never preached. He didn't tell people what to do. It was against everything he believed. So he made an official rule in the yeshiva that on campus, the boys are not allowed to smoke. I think that's a very reasonable compromise. Do what you got to do, but don't do it in my face. And one day he walks into the dormitory, or one evening rather, he walks into the dormitory and there's a room, not that he smells smoke from, that from the crack under the thing, it looks like the whole room's on fire. The smoke is going all the way up. Ad kisei hakavod. So obviously this is not one boy in his room smoking. There's a crew in there smoking. Instinctively, if you're a Shiva that's super accommodating and super liberal and super nice, and all you ask the boys is one thing: don't smoke in the dorm. Would it upset you? I don't know. I may get upset over it. That's all I asked you. I look away from everything. One thing. It was that big of a deal to go down the block? Well, what do you have to do right here for? But Abdullah wasn't a person who did things instinctively, because he was upset or he didn't agree with it. Because he was a smart man. And he knocks on the door and he screams out loud so they should hear, "Don't open. Don't open." Okay. So boys don't open, so what'd you knock for? And he says, "I have a feeling that if I walked in now, you're going to feel uncomfortable and I'm going to feel uncomfortable. So I have this brilliant idea. Do what you got to do, and I'll be back soon, and we'll both feel comfortable." And he left. Talk about an educator. Literally fits the title of the book. Just love them. That's the only thing that makes a difference. And along the same theme, the next story in the book was, or the prior story in the book was, that once he walked into a dorm room, and not into the dorm, into a classroom, and in the classroom, a boy is sitting there smoking. That's already a whole new level. It's not even his bedroom. In the classroom, and he was about to say something. Then he controlled himself, and he looks at the boy and he tells him, "Listen, really what you're doing is wrong. Because that's the only rule in yeshiva, not to smoke on campus. So maybe I should tell you that you're doing something wrong. But I can't tell you that you're doing something wrong. Because I just walked into a room without knocking first. And in Halacha it says you're not allowed to walk into somebody's room without knocking first. Because maybe they're doing something private and you got to mind your own business. Big lesson in life. Mind your own business. Don't look at what other people are doing, or even if they're the closest people to you. People need their space. And if you don't respect somebody else's privacy, then God has no respect for you. And that has nothing to do with who they are. I said this years ago in a parenting class. Some people understood it, and thank God I have successful children. Other people didn't understand it, and today, many of them, their kids are in rehab. And literally, I think this is one of the things that makes it or breaks it. Even if it's your own child, you're walking into his room for whatever reason, which I don't know if there's any reason, at least knock and make sure that they feel comfortable. Why would you put a person on the spot or in a situation that he feels uncomfortable for any reason? And the halacha says so. If you don't like it, take it up with God. I don't know. Fight with him. So he tells the boy, you're in the wrong for smoking, but I'm in the wrong for going against the halacha and Shulchan Aruch and not knocking before I walked in. So we both have to do tshuva. So let's make believe this never happened. I'm going to walk out. You're going to get rid of the cigarette. I'll knock on the door. You'll say I could come in. You won't be smoking, and life will be beautiful. Now, was he naive? Did he really think the boy 5 minutes later is not going to light the next cigarette? No. But that's the right thing. I disagree with what you're doing, but I just love them. So it makes no difference. Doesn't make a difference what you do. They're doing something he disagrees with them, therefore what? That was the master educator. So many lessons from that book, by the way. Because I know that the majority of the people that are going to watch this tomorrow are going to go buy it. Art School should give me a commission. And so I'll leave the rest for your reading. But that was to whet your appetite, to understand that this was an out-of-the-box thinker who succeeded in the greatest way. In the greatest way. He succeeded. Boys that nobody thought there was a hope that they would ever be Shomer Shabbat or anything are huge Talmidei Chachamim today because of him. Gonei Olam. I know guys that are in their 50s that they tell me about themselves. They're older than me. And when they were younger, they didn't dream that there'll ever be a day they'll keep kosher. Forget about, like nothing. Not even tradition. And until today, they're sitting and learning with grandchildren and everything and all the hardships that come along with it. And they say, he loved us so much, there was no way not to concede. That's what, and he protected his students also. A parent or an educator's job, part of his job, is to protect their children. When we say protect our children, we start associating it with whatever agenda somebody brainwashed us with. They shouldn't have this and shouldn't have that. That's not protecting your children. That might be telling your children to hate you. Protecting your children is that loving them so much that all they want to do is be with you and spend time with you and hang out with you and have fun with you. That's the real protection. Because otherwise, honestly, you'll never beat the street. The street got much better stuff out there. So if your house is so loving, then there's a chance. And even then, pray a lot. But then there's a chance. But if not, then what's left? Anyway, so Tzvi Hirsch gets the stone, goes up to Shemayim, comes back, makes it back down, gets the hint, and that's why I said those two stories. That's what an educator is. Don't say things directly. Hint it. Work around. It's very rare. I can almost say that it exists maybe one in hundreds of millions. That there are two people that have a connection on the level that they can actually be completely open and honest with each other without hurting each other's feelings. I wonder if it's one in hundreds of millions. Almost doesn't exist in this world. So we have to assume that that's not the case always. And what are you going to say something directly for? You're going to hurt the other person. So either don't say anything at all, or figure out a way in a very indirect way that maybe it should get into his head. Maybe. Halavai. So he understood from the indirect answer that they gave him in Shamayim about his diamond, probably they don't want him to keep it. And this is a test if he's going to keep it or not. Now imagine somebody's poor and somebody just gave him millions and millions of dollars. Kosher money. Tax-free. 100% legit. That's, you know what a test it is at that point to get rid of it? I don't know, I was never tested with that. I never had that much money. But I'm assuming it's a pretty big test. I can tell you over, tens of thousands of dollars of losses in business, we get so frustrated. So I can only imagine what a test it is when we're talking about wealth that nobody in this whole country is even able to obtain. You have to go to a different country to be able to get somebody to pay such a price for such a thing. So in the morning, after his avodah of tikkun chatzot at night and whatever, which if we have time we'll talk about, he took the diamond and he threw it out of his window onto the sand. Then they didn't have cement roads or paved roads like today. It was dirt, onto the dirt road. Just threw it out. Now, I'm sure you all know that a diamond is one of the strongest stones in the world. You got to cut a diamond with a diamond, that's how strong it is. It's not something that just busts or explodes. And he wasn't even throwing it on something solid. It's a dirt road, it's sand, and it's soft. Definitely in relative to the stone. Hashem made a nes that it shattered like a piece of glass into tons and tons of particles. And the particles elevated themselves, and he saw them going up, 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 and disappearing, like they went back to Shemayim. And that day, they came to him from Shemayim, whatever that means, I don't know, they didn't come to me, so I can't tell you what that means, but this is what it says in the Sfarim. And they told him that you should know that that stone that we sent you was one of the 12 stones on the Choshen of the Shvatim. And it was a test. And the reason why you were tested is because you were also tested with poverty. So we wanted you to pass the test of poverty and the test of wealth. So now you passed both tests in life. And then they quoted to him from a Gemara, the Gemara is Masech Ta'anit Av Chafei Amud Aleph. The Gemara over there says that from Shamayim they give, but they don't take back. You need to spend. When Hashem gives something, you don't take it back. Blessings come and stay. So the fact that they took the stone back to Shamayim is a nes on the level of what the Tanaim had. There's two stories in Chazal that they took something back from this world when it came to something materialistic, meaning money. So there's a man who lived relatively recently, 200 years ago or so, and he had a nes on the level of what Tanaim had. So that brings us a little closer to understanding how we are able to use that parallel between like Ba'omer and Yud Aleph Tammuz. Unbelievable thing, an amazing thing. Now, how far does this go? So besides for that, it goes further. Listen to the crazy story. The Chozeh Milublin, the great tzaddik, the Chozeh Milublin. Chozeh means the one who sees. It was called the Chozeh Milublin because in Ruach HaKodesh he was able to see from one side of the world to the other. There was nothing he didn't know simultaneously. He knew everything that was going on in the entire world live, as if it was happening in front of him. The Chozeh Milublin was sick once, and he couldn't go out to do Kiddush Levana. It was the time of the month to do Kiddush Levana. Couldn't go out to do Kiddush Levana. And Tzvi was there, the Zidshav was there by him, and he told him he has big tzar that he can't do Kiddush Levana. He never missed Kiddush Levana in his life. He says, now that I'm sick, I'm going to miss it. I can't deal with it. So Tzvi says, Rabbi, I don't understand. The moon is right here. And he points to the window, and it looked like the moon was inside the window. And he made Kiddush Levana. You have to understand the halacha about that. You're supposed to make Kiddush Levana tachat kippat hashamayim, under the sky. I don't know. I don't get into the halachot of these tzadikei olam that were chasidim. They had their own way of doing things, and that's not the subject. When he finished Kiddush Levana, he turned to his students, to Chozeh Milublin, and he told them like this. Don't think that Tzvi Hirsch made a miracle that my window turned towards the moon. That's too small for him. That would be an embarrassment for him to do that. Imagine today you saw somebody saying something or saying a prayer and the building started spinning. A Baba is an understatement. The whole world would flock to him. He'd be the most famous guy ever. the miracle maker. Made everything go spinning around. The Chozemi Lublin said about Tzvius, don't think that that's what makes him, that's what he did. That's too small for him. That's nothing. You know what he did? He prayed that I should be able to make Kiddush Levana, so Hashem took the moon from its place and brought it to my window. Meaning he was Meshanes Sidrei Breshit. The creation of the world he changed. The power of a person that was a holy man in Kedusha. Yeah, so there's no end to stories about him. Many Sfarim were written, and each one quotes different things and stories. It was a legend in the Jewish nation. And I just want to say one more story about this, and then we'll conclude with a thought about the Parashat, and you'll go home with something nice. How did he merit to such powers in the world? So everybody's going to say something else. He learned 49 pages of Gemara a day with Koach HaTorah. Makes sense, as an Orach Chaim like that. With Koach HaTorah you could do anything. Other people will say some other thing, I don't know, maybe Kabbalah. He knew Kabbalah, he was able to do it. It's not true, because all these tricks with Kabbalah is Kabbalah Ma'asid, it's very dangerous, you're not allowed to do them. Stipler writes in Kaina de Igus, if you went to a Kabbalist and he gave you one of these types of blessings and it worked, don't be happy, be scared. It's going to harm you in life. It's not going to do any good. So it's a short-term patch that causes long-term damage. Stay away from such people. No. How do we know? We don't know. Are we God? No. What we do know is the closest thing that possible. What he said about himself. So that Hashem gave him powers in this world because he was always willing to give his life to better another Jew's life. Which is really what we said earlier, the way he died. He went to the mezuzah and prayed, God take me and stop the plague, leave the Jewish nation okay. So because he was willing to be Moseh Nefesh to such an extent, Hashem gave him powers. Ad Kan, he said about himself. I want to tell you a story of what that means, with a great lesson. He used to go to the mikveh every night, by Chatzot. He went twice, by Chatzot, and then also in the morning before he prayed Shacharit again. Before Tikkun Chatzot, he would go, and he would go again in the morning. There was no mikveh. So where did he go? He went to the river, and he would go dip in the river. So that's very nice when it's 85 degrees outside. But what happens when it's 40 below zero? Which was roughly the climate in the area that he lived in some of the winter months. So the river's ice. So he would go and bring some sort of tool with him, I don't know what, ice pick maybe, and break the ice till he got to the water and go under the ice into the water and dip there. Dangerous also, yeah? The whole thing is fine. Alright, so that Mesiut Nefesh, by the way, many tzaddikim had. There are many stories, even relatively recent ones, that people have Mesiut Nefesh like that. It's funny, we go maybe to Mikveh Ari once in our life because the Ari said to go, and then Bevadai, you won't pass away without doing Teshuvah. And we talk about it for like 6 months how cold it was. Fine, it was a few degrees less than Sfat, big deal. It's a big fuss. He would break the ice to go. Problem is a technical issue. You make a hole in the water, in the ice for the water. When you go down, if you don't stay exactly straight with the hole, you ain't coming up. And it's a matter of seconds in that temperature that the body can't deal with it anymore. Maybe minutes if we want to be very generous. One day he's about to leave his house before Chatzot to go to the river to dip in the winter. And a man is standing by the door of his house. And the man is crying and he tells him, Rabbi, what happened? Why are you crying? He said, my wife's in labor. And there's complications and whatever, and it's not looking good. Rabbi, pray for me. He said, sure. Now I'm going to pray to dip in the mikveh and to do tikkun chatzot. I'll pray for her. What's her name? He takes the name, he remembers it. And they part ways. He gives him a warm blessing and they part ways. He goes to the water, does his routine, makes a hole, goes in. Goes in, tries to come up, it's ice. He lost the location of the hole. And he quickly realized that his end is near. Not only his end is near, there won't even be a body to bury. Nobody's going to find him. What did a tzaddik do on the last moments when he thought he was dying? He had an ace at the end, he didn't. But when he thought, that's it, it's over. Where was his mind? His words that he said was, Ribono shel olam. Could be now I'm going to die. But at least if I'm going to die, it should be a kapara that my life that I would have lived should go to this child that has to be born. A man is battling for his life, doesn't know if he's going to live in a few seconds, and what's on his mind? The other person's problem. You think we're done? For that alone, I would have not said the story. I know people alive today to do things like that. Here's the story. This was the Kabbalist who was a Baal Ruach HaKodesh. He's praying for a kid to be born. If he's willing to give his life, you would assume that he's probably praying for one of the biggest neshamot that's going to come down, one of the great tzaddikim of Jewish history. You know what the kid that was born from that story was? The biggest Rasha in the whole city. Somebody who fought the rabbi later on in his life when he was a young boy. And Abtziyesh Baruch Kodsho knew that. He was willing to give his life, not to help a tzaddik, to help the lowest of the lowest of the lowlifes in the whole Jewish nation. Because a Yid is a Yid, that's it. A Jew is a Jew. And every Jew deserves to be helped. And every Jew deserves a chance. That's a real tzaddik. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that somebody has such a huge Ahavat Yisrael, that even for such a low person, he's willing to sacrifice his life, Hashem says, a person like that, that's my man. Whatever he says goes. That's the one who I trust with the world most. Because he emulates my ways most. Hashem gives the biggest Rishayim life every morning. They wake up in the morning. Mahu rachum afatar rachum. That's a person who goes in the footsteps of God. If you go in the footsteps of God, then we are so removed from that idea that it's painful just to think about it. How far we are from the way tzaddikim used to think. I'll give you an example. I opened a foundation a few years ago that's dedicated to one cause. There are many people that study Torah all day, in America and Israel, all over the world, but I was focusing on my local town, Lakewood, New Jersey. And some of them, thank God, have means for whatever reasons, people help them. Others don't have means. And they don't know what the word vacation means. They simply can't afford it. By us, we couldn't go away for 3 months because of COVID, and we're all ready to leave and not come back practically. These guys could be married 15, 20 years, they never went away for one night because they simply can't afford it. It doesn't fit in the budget. So a few years ago, I realized this problem, and I said, this is insane. I work, goes on vacation, and whatever. And they who sit and study Hashem's Torah and protect the world, and the only reason why I'm successful is because of their Torah, they don't go on vacation? That's sick. So I opened a foundation, which I thought would be very popular, to sponsor a vacation trip for a Kollel family that can't afford to go on vacation. And I was convinced that in a second, all my friends are going to join me and it's going to be a no-brainer. If I would tell you the amount of slack I got, people wanted to kill me. That's charity? That's important? What, are we paying for people's vacations? That's what I heard. And it was a very painful realization. Number one, what stingy eyes we have. And number two, how we have zero respect for Talmidei Chachamim. Honestly, if you only have enough money for one vacation, you shouldn't go and he should go. At least he's learning. What are you doing with yourself? It's exactly the opposite. And yeah, the tzaddikim need a rest too. Hashem didn't, all the Gdolei Yisrael all went to rest. Even Reb Chaim Kanievsky goes to Tzvat or whatever, everybody always goes away. For a few days, a change. They don't rest exactly, they sit and learn, but they learn in a different environment. If Tzvius was willing to give his life for Rasha, we're not willing to give a few bucks to help a kollel guy go on vacation. That's how removed we are. And I sincerely believe that if tonight we'll walk out of here understanding that those who are in need and are sitting and studying Torah, and that Torah is protecting the world, and they're doing it for the right reasons, purely. Again, I'm not getting into the discussion of who should or who shouldn't and that. I stay out of those things. But there are many that are doing it purely, and currently under great, great, great sacrifice, insane sacrifice. If we understand that these are the people that we have to respect in life most and do the most for, then we start emulating the way of this tzaddik. And that's the biggest aliyat neshama for him. And at that point, if you do something for a neshama of a tzaddik, he owes you a favor. So b'vadai in Shamayim, he'll reciprocate and be a militziyosha on us back. I don't doubt it for a second. And it's an attitude. It's an attitude of having a good eye and wanting to see somebody else have something. It's an attitude. Last Thursday night after I was here in the shiva, I went somewhere else, an event here in Queens, whatever, to ask me to come say a few words. No. There was a boy there, not a boy, a married man there, who was, I don't know if he's a Shomer Shabbat or not, or whatever. I don't exactly ask or judge, or it's none of my business, honestly. Just love them, that's all I could do. I know him for a long time, I gave him a big hug and whatever, and then I was looking what to compliment him for. So I couldn't compliment him for his kippah because he wasn't wearing one. I couldn't compliment him for his haircut because he cut over here, so he was already over Bal Takif. So I was going down looking for what Then I saw on his t-shirt it said the name of the company, and I knew it was an expensive company. I said, okay, now I found what to compliment him for. Got to give a good word to somebody. I said, you got a really nice t-shirt. I hope you enjoy it. Then I told him maybe we take a selfie together. What selfie? But if that's what's going to make him feel good, why not? So he tells me, yeah, whatever, he was all into it. And then he says, do you want one? So now what do, right? If I tell him no, so then there were my compliments. So I said, yeah, of course I want one. He said, you're going to wear it?
Of course.
So I said, sure, what do you mean? It's going to be such a good look for next week's shiur. No, it's not the shirt I'm wearing. Yeah, whatever. Black t-shirt with a big white Louis Vuitton. And it would look good for the shiur. No, it would be interesting. I said, sure. The guy stopped whatever he was doing, and he's busy making phone calls at 10:30 at night to all his friends that he knows that bought the same type of shirts to see if any of them has one, my size, he's going to buy off of them to give me, thinking that I want it. Thank God he didn't come up with it, because otherwise I would be wearing that tonight. And I would do it, because I will not hurt somebody's feelings who went out of his way to make me happy. But that's a guy with a good eye, an ayin tova. My problem is that you decided I have to get you close. For what? Certain people, it's in their DNA to be people with an ayin tova. If there's something that I have and somebody else doesn't have, I want him to have it too. We buy things with things other people don't have because that makes us feel more that we're better than them. I got a nicer car than you. It's just the opposite. Make sure your neighbor has a nicer car than you. Like this is no ayin hara on you. So much smarter. That was the way of this tzaddik, and that's what we should take to heart and think about very seriously and make something out of it. And I end with a thought about the Parashat that fits this theme, and you should have a wonderful Shabbat. In this Parashat we study about Parah Adumah. Parah Adumah is a gzeirah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a chok. Even Shlomo HaMelech said, Amarti chakma v'hi rechoka mimeni. I thought I was smart, he was the chacham mikol adam, the wisest man. But Parah Adumah was rechoka mimeni. He couldn't figure out the meaning of Parah Adumah. Why? Because it seems to be irrational. The one who sprays the ashes makes the other one pure. But the one who does it, he himself becomes impure. How does that work? If this is something that makes people pure, the one who sprays it should be even more pure. So in Chassidut, it's not a question. Baal Shem Tov has a whole Torah about that sometimes to pull somebody out of the mud, you got to go into it. But, and of course we're not here to say a tam for para aduma, because Chazal said clearly there is no tam. Why is there no tam? A lot of things we don't understand, but we have to understand why we don't understand them. It's actually very good in life not to understand a lot of things. But you have to at least be able to understand why you don't understand them. So over here, it's no big deal. Chazal said clearly. Rashi brings it down. Rashi brings down multiple things on this. But one of them is that it came as a kapara on Chet HaEgel. Fine, that doesn't explain why, but it's just a factual thing. And then Rashi says something else. Brings down from Chazal, it's not Rashi. Fisha Satan ve'umot ha'olam munim et Yisrael lomar. Ma mitzvah azot u'ma ta'am yesh ba. Because the Jewish nation, because the Goyim and the Satan look at the Jews and say, what's this mitzvah? And there's no reasoning behind it. There's no rhyme and reason. It doesn't make any sense. Reminds me, sadly, I wasn't in Eretz Yisrael for a very long time. My longest stretch since I was 14, that I wasn't in Israel. Since January. Never happened to me such a thing. But, okay, Hashem shall up soon. It's a big problem. Kedushat Eretz Yisrael, when you walk in Eretz Yisrael, Daled Amot, it's mechaprim l'kol avonotav, your sins are all erased. If Hashem takes away that zchut from the Jews in Chutz La'aretz, we have to think, well, why is Hashem taking away that zchut from us? We have to pray very hard that we should get it back quickly. We should be able to walk the streets of Jerusalem b'simcha, happy, very quickly. But anyway, so the Satan and Umot Ha'olam say, what type of mitzvah is this? It makes no sense. So once I was walking the street, my last trip in January to Israel, I was walking in the street, not in Jerusalem, in Nes Tziona, and walking down the block, and somebody recognizes me. A guy who lives there recognizes me. Hey, how are you? Nice to see you. Fine. I said, nice to see you too. Tells me, what are you doing here? He knows I don't have an apartment there, whatever. I stay in hotels. So I said, I came to meet somebody. So this guy was a nosy guy, kind of rude, you don't do these things. He says, what do you have to meet him for? Mind your own business, that's what I should have answered him. But I didn't care to tell him, honestly, because, you know what, I thought maybe it'll be good for him to hear. I said, because we're in the middle of building a shul, and we need some Sifrei Torah. And this guy had mentioned to me a few weeks ago that he wants to donate a Sefer Torah. So I'm going to his house to talk to him directly to see if it's only in Israel that he wants to donate the Sefer Torah, also in America also. And if, it works out for me, he'll give the Sefer Torah. We need it. Win-win. So instead of him at that point realizing that he already crossed his boundaries by asking what I'm doing, I was nice enough to answer him. He's not done yet. He says, and what do you need Sifrei Torah for in plural? Why is one not enough? So I said, B'mchila, maybe you forgot. There's some weeks that we need 2 Sifrei Torah, and on holidays sometimes 3 Sifrei Torah. So we need more than 1 Sefer Torah. So he says, yeah, but you could roll it. I said, Mechila, maybe you forgot. The Gemara says that in the Kohen Gadol and Yom HaKippurim, even didn't roll the Sefer Torah, he read by heart. Because Torah Tzibur, meaning if there's a way to avoid having to roll the Sefer Torah, of course, there's no choice, we do it. But if there's a way to avoid it, you don't do it. You don't keep people waiting. It's a very rude thing to do. It's very not nice. No, you would hope by then he's done. He's like, why are you wasting your time going to that guy? He's never going to give it to you. I said, are you his accountant? Are you his banker? Are you, like, that's what I was thinking. I didn't say it. And then he tells me something that stuck with me. He tells me, and I wouldn't give it to you either, even though I can afford to give a Sefer Torah. I didn't ask him for anything. I would never ask him for anything. I said, oh yeah, why not? At that point I said, that's it. You crossed the line, now we're going to go head to head. He said, because it makes no sense. It's your community. What do you have, 50 guys, 100 guys? Each guy should chip in $1,000, buy your own. What do we have to pay for it for? I said, that means in life, whatever doesn't make sense, you don't do. I said, yeah. I said, do you really think it makes no sense? Do I seem like somebody with a low IQ to you? I have a lot of letters after my name that can prove otherwise. He says, I know, that's why I'm surprised. I said, so there must be a reason. So now let's conclude. You just made a statement that if there is a reason to something, but you happen not to understand it, then you won't do it. So it just so happens to be that I remember the last time I saw you, you mentioned to me that you have high blood pressure. Are you taking medication? I said, yeah. I said, can you explain me how it works? I purposely picked that because chemistry is my strong point in life. And he said, I have no clue. I said, so why are you taking it? He said, because the doctor gave it to me, told me to take it for my blood pressure. I said, but wait a second, didn't we just establish that what you don't understand, you don't do? And I said, look at your double standard, you sick person. As long as it pertains to you and you think it might keep you healthy in life, then you do what you don't understand. But if God forbid it's going to benefit somebody else, then you want nothing to do with it. So I'm not judging you. You probably were raised in a rough home. I don't know what, there's something went wrong in your head. And as a result, it is what it is. And honestly, I love you even more than I loved you before. Because if you would have got enough love in your life, you wouldn't think that way. But you should just know that that's a very big double standard. We all do things that we don't understand. And then I told him a big yisod. And I think that this is the yisod behind why, one of the many ways to explain why Hashem Dafka gave mitzvot that have no explanation. If you're hungry and you come to my house and I feed you, I did a good deed, right? It's a nice thing to do. You benefited also. You came in hungry, you left full. Kalba savua, right? People came in hungry like a dog, the Gemara says, left out completely full. It's a beautiful thing to do. But does that mean I love you? No. It's an ethical thing. Guy's hungry, you fed him. That's the extent. I'm encouraging it, it's beautiful. Right? Now we fund every week, we feed 280 families already. And I don't want to say bli ayin hara because I don't want them to be more. I want there should be less. There shouldn't be poor people in Am Yisrael. But it's a very rational thing. It makes sense. It's humanitarian. You love somebody. But now let's say somebody else likes something. And to you it makes no sense whatsoever. You think it's the craziest thing in the world. Naturally, you're not going to get it from him, right? It's insane. When would you go out of the way to get somebody something that you think is insane? If you truly love them. Because if you truly love them and that's what's going to make them happy, even if it makes you uncomfortable or even if it makes you think it's crazy, it doesn't make a difference anymore. There are many mitzvot in the Torah like V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha and kabed et avicha and this. Makes sense. Lo tignov. Everybody understands. Yeah, stealing's wrong. Comes HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, all of that's nice, but that doesn't mean you love me. That means you don't want to be a criminal. No? You want to have some sort of ethical code. Where's the mitzvah that it's going to show me that you love me? Gzeira gazalti, when I make a chukah, a chok, something with no reason. Ve'ein lecha reshut le'arer achreha. And you have no, reshut is not only permission, you have no ability to understand it. I eliminated the ability for you to comprehend why. And you still do it because you know that's what's going to make me happy, then I know you have Avat Yisrael. Avat Hashem. Comes God and says, if you love me, either way I love you, but love is mutual. When you show me love, if you do things, even though you don't understand them out of love for me, so even if I don't understand why you're doing all your sins and it really shouldn't be that way, I'm going to look away from that. And that's why even the ashes of para aduma are able to be mitaher, to purify. That's a pure person. I'm not going to do it because I don't understand. Okay, go get help. Now, you have to be able to understand why you don't understand. That's a subject on its own. Many years ago we gave a few classes on that. That there's a very rational scientific case why some mitzvot we don't understand. The majority we do. The Torah said clearly, we don't understand the entire reason, but one of the many reasons we understand. But beyond that, that's a yisod for life. Do you understand why a 2-year-old wants to eat a lollipop at 11 p.m.? I don't think so. Because rationally it makes no sense. It's going to ruin his teeth, he's going to need a dentist, it's going to hurt him, it's this, it's that. But if you really love him, I don't know if it's right or wrong to give it to him. Again, the dentist will say it's right because they want the business. The other people will say it's wrong. That's not my discussion. But at least you'll realize, whether I understand or not, that's what he wants now. Now, the question is if you're responsible not to give it to him. That's a separate question. But the idea. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. And that's what these tzaddikim taught us. And just that it shouldn't be disrespect, God forbid. So one of the Gedolei Olam in the Litvisher world, we just spoke about the Hasidic world, that his Yortzeit happens to also be tonight, is Agon Rabbi Chanan Wasserman, Hashem Yinkom Damo. Rabbi Chanan Wasserman, in one sentence, besides for his Geonut in Torah and the whole Olam HaYeshivot, we all learn his Torah on a regular basis, was a man who could have been saved from World War II, because he was out of the danger zone, and went back in and died together with his 400 students, because he said, if my students are going down, I'm going down with them. They're not going to be left alone. The ultimate sacrifice. It's not coincidental that the two tzaddikim that had the ultimate sacrifice for the Jewish nation, the Yortzeit came out Yud Aleph Tammuz, which as we began, has the B'china of Lag BaOmer, a day that Yachol Ani Niftar et Kol HaOlam Kulo Badin, God erases the judgment in the world. Hashem should help that all judgments in the world should be erased. Hashem should be mamtik ta dinim ha'shoresh and send us big chasadim and big yeshuot, b'simcha gdola ad bli dai. Shabbat shalom v'orach tzkul shanim rabot.